Welcome to Bakewell, the only town in the Peak District National Park and its unofficial capital. Some call it the ancient capital of the Peak, known for its nature, buildings, and of course, pudding. It's a picturesque and historic market town that attracts thousands of visitors every year.
Bakewell originates from the personal name Baedeker and Wella, meaning spring or stream. It flourished as a market town from the 1200s, although the cotton industry arrived in the late 1700s with Lumfold Mill, after Richard Arkwright built it for his son. Then it was used by D.P. Battery Company from 1898 until 1972, and they utilised the old water wheels. Today, Bakewell is a lovely rural retreat and still retains its heritage as an active market town.
Of course, it's also most well known for its Bakewell pudding, a well-loved and famous pastry. It's believed that it dates back to as early as the 1820s and was certainly established by 1841 when it was mentioned in a newspaper article.
One of the oldest and most culturally significant sites in Bakewell is this, the All Saints Church. There are two Anglo-Saxon crosses in the churchyard, with the smaller one known as the Beely Cross dating back to as early as the 600s. There was already a church here when the Normans invaded, but William Peveril built a new one in 1110. It was modernised in the 1200s, and from 1839 onwards, work began on a new crossing, transept, tower and spire.
Some of the notable features of Bakewell include Cross's Folly, a drinking fountain built by Robert Cross to commemorate the provision of a piped water supply to every house in Bakewell in 1876. There is also Bakewell Motte, which was believed to have been constructed in the earliest, the 1100s. There's Bakewell Old House Museum, a Tudor house from Henry VIII's reign, and finally Bakewell Town Hall, dating from 1889.
One of the places that has been at the heart of Bakewell is this, Scots Garden. Now, there was a garden recorded near Bakewell Bridge all the way back in 1381. This grassland was once one of three entrances into Bakewell, the one people from Baslow would have used. It has been an open green space for people and nature alike for centuries. The first time it was referred to as Scots Garden, however, was in 1912, where it was spelled with two T's. It was first called Scott with one T in 1915. It could have been named after Walter Scott, a Scottish poet who popularised Haddon Hall in his 1890 poem, In the Olden Time. However, it could have also been named after the Duke of Rutland's agent at the time, H.R. Scott, or his son-in-law, Lord George Scott.
The Rutlands, owing to financial issues, sold Castle Hill House in 1920. It was bought by Robert Greaves Blake, a local justice of the peace, who then gave it to the public in 1933.
One of the most iconic parts of Bakewell, and located near the entrance to Scots Garden, is Bakewell Bridge. Built in around the 1300s, it was made as people needed a safe place to cross the River Wye, although there was a toll, and thus Homebridge was built by people who didn't want to pay it. Made of ashlar sandstone, it is a Grade 1 listed, scheduled ancient monument and is considered one of the oldest bridges in all of England. It was widened in the 1800s when Bakewell grew thanks to industrialisation, and there was increased traffic up and down the river.
The River Wye helped shape Bakewell from its very beginnings up until now, as the town was built on the west bank, where it was most fordable.
It's likely that this area was occupied by the Romans, given the Roman altar at Haddon Hall. It is also thought this is how the River Wye got its name. Although it is uncertain, it is believed the word Wye came from the Roman word varga, meaning wander. The water from the River Wye was very important in the industrialisation of Bakewell as well.
What is now Riverside Business Park was once Lumford Mill. Richard Arkwright, a leading industrial inventor, leased land near the Wye in 1777 from Phil Gell of Hopton. After some issues of water rights, he eventually built a cotton spinning mill intended for his son. By 1821, it employed 350 people. By 1827, the first water wheel was installed. By 1857, the second had been installed as well. It was sold to the Duke of Devonshire in 1860 and then had to be rebuilt after a fire in 1868. Ultimately, cotton spinning stopped in the mid-1890s.
Then the Dujardin Plant Battery Company took over the premises in 1898. They made large electrical batteries and in the Second World War were a target for the Luftwaffe. Although they used the two water wheels, there was an accident in 1955 which put them out of action and they were replaced by turbines. The business closed in 1977.
Chert mining was also a prominent industry. Now, chert is a sedimentary rock made mostly of silica and finds uses ranging from stream gravel to building material. The Peak District was a great place for it, as it is often found in limestone.
The Home Bank Chert Quarry, also known as the Bakewell Chert Mine, was being worked from around 1832 until at the latest 1961. Chert from Bakewell was being used in potteries. When the Duke of Devonshire purchased Lumford Mill, he also purchased the Chert Quarry.
In the mid to late 1800s, the River Wye from Bakewell to Rowsley was owned for fishing by the Duke of Rutland, who also had keepers look after the water. However, it is fishing that helped give the River Wye its legacy.
In 1865, expert angler James Ogden unveiled dry fly fishing to the world for the first time here on the River Wye. Dry fly fishing is when the artificial fly sits atop the water and so the angler has to get the fish to rise up to it. Ogden loved the River Wye and was experimenting with different fishing techniques all the way back as 1839. The fish was enjoyed by local people for its trout, and Ogden actually started dry fly fishing as a response to a concerned steward who was scared that too many fish were dying. Now, the River Wye is world famous for its dry fly fishing and retains an exclusive status of dry fly fishing only.
On that note, one of the most famous attractions of Scots Garden, and the River Wye as well, is the fish.
Brown trout are indigenous to the UK and have been a staple part of this area since at least the early 1800s. However, the River Wye boasts the only place where rainbow trout naturally spawn in the UK, as they are actually indigenous to the USA. In the 1890s, developing rainbow trout eggs were being transported from California to Ashford Lake near here. However, 5 years later, a flood broke the dam that led into the river and the fish got into the water. Miraculously, the River Wye had the same conditions as the river back home in the USA that the fish came from. What's also unique to the UK rainbow trout, like the American ones, is that actually they breed in spring and not winter. They have plenty of food and today are cared for by the Haddon Riverkeeper.
There's also grayling here too, but it's also home to water vole and kingfishers. Plus, there's black poplar trees and elder and alder line the Wye, and there's weeping willow by Bakewell Bridge. In days gone by, the area was used by cows for grazing.
This area isn't just used by people, it's also a big part of the local wildlife as well. Plus, it's not just a lovely spot for the local community, but it's also a fantastic day out for visitors. There's more than just the nature we've seen here today, as there is centuries of history waiting to be explored. One of the main reasons it was given to the public in 1933 was that the council were going to buy it anyway, to prevent anyone from building on here. I think I speak for everyone when I say I'm sure glad that no one got the chance to build on Scots Garden, as this is a place of tranquility at the heart of one of Britain's most historic towns.